Okay, good morning and welcome to the information session for the 2024-2025 fiscal year CLLS mid-year report and the 2025-2026 CLLS pre-application. These two forms are combined in one document and you'll be filling it out this month. So we'll be giving you information about both of those forms to fill out, which are combined into one form on counting opinions. Okay, next slide. Here's your CLLS team. You can always send general questions to clls@library.ca.gov. When we're out, one of us is out, it's always a good idea to CC that CLLS address so both of us will get a chance to see it. And you know me, Bev Schwartzberg, and my email address, and my colleague Allison Giffredo, and her email address and phone numbers. And these will be posted when we post the slides to this presentation, along with the recording. Today's agenda, we're going to talk about the purpose of the mid-year report and the pre-application because they are very helpful for us here at the State Library. We're going to talk about the deadlines for those. We're going to talk about spending for the current program period you're in, which is fiscal year 24-25. We'll talk about encumbrance deadlines and the definition of what encumbered means. We'll talk about budget modifications, and we'll give you a overview of the CLLS mid-year report and pre-application, and we'll give you resources for helping with the CLLS report and pre-application, and we'll have time for your questions. So the mid-year report purpose. The mid-year report every year helps us better support you, and it gives us just a check into what's going on. In particular, it helps us support you staying on track with spending for your CLLS funds. Two important things here. You do have to get an accounting of your CLLS spending of your current year's grant, only your 24-25 funds. So knowing this, you guys should go to your financial people, your fiscal people, as soon as possible and say, I'm going to have to report on this. Can you run some reports for me on spending through December 31st? But it also tells us whether you have started spending those funds, whether you're on track for spending them. If you spent 100% of those funds, we'll know that, so you're only spending local funds for the rest of the year. If you spent 0% of those funds, we'll know that to make sure we help you get on track with spending. The second purpose for the mid-year report is to make your final report a bit easier. You've already done half the work and you can see where you are. It's horrible to wait until the end of the fiscal year to try to check up on things. So this is a mid-year check for you. And the third purpose is so we can release the remaining 10% of your funds. So we are still holding back 10% of your 24-25 adult literacy funds. And once you complete the final report and it's certified and correct, we will release the 10% of your funds. So for some of you, that's a chunk of money, and it'll be available for you to spend in the second half of the year.
And I'm just going to add one quick thing that's not on here, which is just special for this year. For ESL programs, your completion of the mid-year report is also going to release your 25-26 ESL funds. So you'll be getting two different check distributions after we approve your mid-year report. You're going to be getting the remaining 10% of your CLS awards. And then you'll also be getting your 25-26, so next fiscal year's ESL award funds. Just so like last year, in the hopes that you can start spending right on July 1st, 2025.
Yeah, those ESL funds are the one group of funds you can start claiming a bit earlier. Okay. So for the pre-application, why do we make you do this? The 25-26, hard to think ahead, new fiscal year starting July 1st, 2025. It helps us get an idea of your program's plans for the program period 25-26 by learning, one, whether you want to continue being a CLLS program. Two, if you're not already offering family literacy with state funds, whether you intend to apply for family literacy services supported by statewide funds, and also to report any significant changes to your program. So if you anticipate, for example, a retirement or additional hiring in the new fiscal year, or a change of location because your building is under construction and you're working in an alternate location. All of those things are significant changes. If your library jurisdiction has changed for any reason, or your community has changed, this is a good place to report it. We're thinking ahead to the next fiscal year, and will there be any significant changes, particularly any significant changes where the state library can support you or where the state library needs to know about. So the deadline, these two things together, the single form, the mid-year report, and the pre-application are due Monday, February 3rd by 5 p.m. So you have a full month. We actually did open this early in December. Some of you got started. Most of the text, I think you would be able to complete relatively easily. For me, the hard part was always making sure I got my financial documents in order. And you really want to make sure that you do that right away, that you don't wait until the end of January to ask your supervisor, manager, or financial person. I'd like to run the reports for spending from July 1st to December 31st, 2024, using our 24-25 grant funds. That's super important that you get those financial reports right away. So all of you can look at this, look at the form. When we're done, you sign into Counting Opinions as you usually do, but take a look. And you'll see it's not that hard, not that complicated a form. You're not reporting that much information about tutoring, just a narrative. So you don't have to have all those demographic numbers. It's narrative and a financial report. Okay, so for the 24-25 program period, these are the funds, your current year funds. We do expect them to be spent by June 30th, 2025. That's the end of the fiscal year. And this report is spending the first 6 months of spending of those new funds, spending between July 1st and December 31st, 2024, the past 6 months. But we're only capturing the spending of this fiscal year's funds. If you had encumbered funds that you were spending down, you've already reported those. We don't want you to report them again. You can only report this fiscal year's funds and how much you've spent in the previous 6 months. We do expect you to spend down this year's funds by June 30th. However, if you need to encumber them, we'll talk about what that means. Oh, Allison, that's yours. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. So there are a few encumbrance deadlines. The first and most important is the all 24-25 CLS funds should be encumbered by May 31st, 2025. So that we still have a few months. So the mid-year report is hopefully going to help you kind of keep track of whether you're on track to spend your funds or not, and if any budget modifications are needed or will be needed. And then just as a reminder that the encumbrance deadline, when you can spend out and all of your encumbered funds for this year is changing. So for 24-25 CLS funds, those funds can be spent. They can be encumbered and spent between July 2025 and the close of the final report in September 2025. So we are bringing in the encumbrance deadline by a few months. It used to be, as we saw in 23-24, December 31st, but now it's been brought in to the end of September when the final report is due. And just a quick recap into encumbered definition. So CLS's encumbrance definition is a little different than like the official definition. For us, it just means that you have an approved budget on file and that it shows your spending plan for those encumbered funds between July 1st and September. So we need to just know how you plan to spend those funds and approve that spending. And I think this might be on the next slide, but I'm not sure. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So another reminder is that new spending plans. So if you have to change your budget for any reason, in any way, should be approved before the new spending occurs. So that it also includes like any kind of lateral changes. So if you are changing the way funds are being spent in one line item, like for example, you decide to, in program supplies and materials, you plan to buy 10 laptops, but you instead are going to buy 5 and spend the remaining funds on books, you'd have to notify us for that change. And then we would have to approve that. And we'd need a budget modification for any funds that are being moved from line to line. So if you're moving for those, instead of buying 5 additional laptops, you decide to move that to salary, wages, and benefits, we would need to approve that change in spending before it happens. And so those budget modifications should take place before or by May 31st. And as you've some of you may have seen, it's our budget modification approval process is a little slower than it has been in the past. So getting that in as soon as you can and planning for that is really helpful, just to, you know, try not to delay any of your spending on your side that may cause other changes and all of that. So if you could get those in soon, that'd be great. And then now we're moving into the actual mid-year report overview. So on the mid-year report, we have 4 sections. The jurisdiction information, so this is just some information about your library. Program information, this is information about your CLS program specifically. Description of programs and activities, so this is just giving some narrative information and some other kinds of numerical and yes/no information about your adult literacy, family literacy, and ESL programs if you offer the final 2. And then your financial report for 24-25 funds. So only 4 short sections on this mid-year report portion of the report form. And so in jurisdiction information, we're asking for 4 basic pieces of information. Your library information, so this is your library name, address, and then your literacy program coordinator's contact information. I think that there's also an option to select if this person is new, because we, as you probably remember, we try to keep track of like new folks, especially so we can invite them to our upcoming February CLS new coordinator and director orientation. So please share if you're new or your coordinator's new. The library director's contact information, and we also try to keep track if these folks are new as well. So if your director is new, since you filled out the final report, please let us know. And then your authorized representative information. So these are the folks that can that have been authorized by your library to sign claim forms, and those are the forms to claim your money, that have been signed to authorized to sign report forms. Those are folks that can actually like authorize or, you know, officiate your report form information. And then we have one more, but I'm losing it. Maybe we'll remember. And so this may be the same person who has the authority to assign all of these documents, or it may be a different person depending on the type of document that it is. So you may just need to double check that you have the correct people who can sign each of the documents. And we just like to keep this information updated, because we also share it with our fiscal people and all of that, just so that we know who to send things to, and also who to, when we're creating like budget modification letters or anything like that, we know who to, who is going to receive that. And so program information, there's just a few quick questions in this section. What is your program's name? And how is your 24-25 program provided? So we're just trying to keep track if your program is provided in-house by the library, which by far the majority of CLS programs are, or if your program is provided by another organization or agency. And then we'd also like to collect that agency's name and director information. Then section 3 is a description of programs and activities. So in this section, we have one new question, but the remaining are the same. So we ask if you offer adult literacy, family literacy, or ESL. All programs select yes for adult literacy, and then you select yes or no for family literacy and ESL, depending on if you're awarded funds this year. Then you will provide a description of your activities between July 1st to December 31st. So what did you do? How did you do it? For whom did it benefit? Then you're going to describe any challenges that you might be seeing with your program for the first 6 months of the year. And then the new question is approximately how many adult learners did you serve in adult literacy? About how many adult learners did you serve in family literacy, and about how many ESL learners have you served in ESL services for the first half of the year? And then this final question is the same as previous years. Are you on track to spend your adult literacy, family literacy, and or ESL funding if you offer the final two programs?
Allison, I want to add one thing, which is the approximate number of adult learners served. That's really for us to see how you're doing the first 6 months of the year. But when you come to the final report, you'll report the cumulative number. You don't subtract the mid-year numbers. Some of you may have been around a long time ago when there were 2 complete reports during the year. This is sort of an estimate to see where you are and to help us. But when you come to the final report, you will report every learner who participated during the year, even if they left during the first half of the year. I know that may sound a little complicated, but a few of you are going to understand what I'm getting at here. So this number is just kind of a working number, but the final number of everyone served in the year will be in their final report.
And so a new section's been added to section 3, section 3.4. And this is just kind of digging a little deeper into the changes or challenges that you may be experiencing or have experienced in the first 6 months of the year. Just to kind of give us a sense, like Bev said, it helps us get an idea of like where we can offer support and where we can be of help, and just to kind of, try to address these issues before the end of the year, which sometimes is when we end up seeing them. So now we'd like to just kind of get a better picture of what's happening in the middle of the year. And so you'll describe any of those changes or challenges that you're experiencing, or maybe that you experienced in the first half of the year. And we've added this yes/no checkbox that's asking if you'd like to receive one-on-one support to talk through these changes or challenges. And that would mean one-on-one support with me or Bev, or both of us. And if there's anything else you'd like to share. And so this also says, this includes like great stories so far. So please also include any great stories that you've seen. What are some good successes? So just to highlight that changes can be positive too. They could be, extra funding that you've gotten from your local government. They could be a couple new positions that that were approved, and maybe you want to talk a little bit about what to do with that. And then in the final section, you can share some great stories.
Yeah, I just want to add a word about great stories. We get asked all the time by administration and communications, oh, tell me a good literacy story, or we're issuing this report in addition to our own legislative report. There are other reports that come out of the state library, annual reports, annual updates, and we always have a need for great stories. So we'd rather not wait till the end of the year. If you have something great to tell us mid-year as well. And always email them to us as well, because we love them.
And then section 4, as Bev mentioned, this is probably the section that's going to take the most time, is the financial report. And just to reiterate that this section is only reporting spending of your CLLS funds for 24-25. So what has been spent? That's what we're trying to get a good idea of here. You are not reporting any local funds in this section, and you are not reporting any previous year's encumbered funds in this section. We're only trying to get an idea of your CLLS spending for 24-25. And A narrative description isn't required for the mid-year report, but if you would like to keep track of like your expenses, like for yourself, you could also include a narrative description of the expenses in that section. So this section is only for 24-25 CLS funds that had been spent between July 1st and December 31st. No encumbered funds should be included in this figure from 23-24, and no local funds should be included in this figure. And here's just a quick glimpse at the financial report. It's a pared down version of what you see on the application and the final report. So we have our new spending categories, and we just have adult, family, ESL, because we are not capturing local matching funds at this time. And then our narrative, which is optional. And similar to last year, we have this section 4.2 that's asking just about any remaining funds that you might have. So does your library have 22-23 CLS funds remaining from that year? Yes or no? Does your library have any 23-24 CLS funds remaining from that year? And do you have an approved spending plan on file? So this means that at the time of the report that you are submitting, do you have any remaining funds from 22-23 or 23-24? If you're not sure if you have a spending plan on file, you may not have one, but you can also check. If you select no, we'll reach out anyways. So just send us an email if you're not sure how to answer actually any of these questions in 4.2. But we'll be reaching out if you do select no for any of these questions. And then pass it to Bev.
Okay, so for the pre-application, it's a relatively quick form. There are two sections. There's one is the current program information, and the second is only if you are adding a family literacy program to be funded by CLLS. That is the only additional section. You only complete it. Current family literacy programs don't complete it, only if you've decided you wanted to add a CLLS family literacy program beginning July 1st, 2025. So let's take a look. The current program information, you are going to report your program plans for next year, right? That's 2025, 2026, and the fiscal year starts July 1st, 2025. This is just a pre-application, very quick. You are going to complete a full application for 25, 26 during the spring, as you always do. So we will ask you whether you plan to continue adult literacy services. If you're going to continue with CLS, you check yes. If you check no, you cannot apply for any other funding. You must have adult literacy services in order to offer state-funded family literacy and ESL services. We'll ask you whether you plan to continue offering state-funded family literacy services. We will ask for any significant changes to your program in 25-26. This can include significant staffing changes, location changes, service model changes, significant new contracts and partnerships. Let us know anything that you anticipate, but you will put that in your full application, but just to give us a heads up. And also whether you have interest in beginning state-funded family literacy services in 25-26. So if you check yes to that, and you want to be a new family literacy program with CLLS funds, then the next section will trigger. Okay, so if you have checked new family literacy services and you have not offered CLLS funded family literacy services in the previous year, this will pop up. The section is only for programs interested in starting a new family literacy services program or 25-26. We will ask you for some narrative to describe your planned family literacy services program, to describe what you plan for outreach activities. And these are all tentative, but what do you envision? What do you anticipate for the number of enrolled adult learners served? What do you anticipate for the number of enrolled children of adult learners to be served? And what do you anticipate for the number of unenrolled but eligible adult learners and families served? So you can offer family literacy services in addition to your own enrolled students to folks that you want to enroll, the folks who are eligible for adult literacy services. So we're going to ask you to anticipate or guess at those numbers.
So CLS mid-year report and pre-application resources. So most of our resources at this point can be found on the CLS Manager Grants page. And so we have shared out the instructions document that went out with the original announcement a few weeks ago. And we also shared the blank template because I know for some it's a little easier to draft your responses in a Word doc because sometimes you don't know if County Opinions may save everything. So just to have those responses saved somewhere, I think it's maybe a good idea to use that blank template. Just remember to take a look at the revised CLS allowable and unallowable expenses documents because our categories have changed this year. So just keep an eye on that. Every year we're trying to make it a little more detailed just to help out and so that you have an easier place to turn to. And then if you need extra support, you think it might be easier just to talk through some issues, schedule a one-on-one meeting with us. We're always happy to talk through whatever issues or questions that you're experiencing at the moment. And just a quick reminder, oh, this is Bev. But,
That's okay. You can go ahead, Allison.
yeah, just a quick reminder that you could send general questions to our cls@library.ca.gov email. And then if you want to reach out to either of us specifically, reach out to Bev or myself to our personal work emails.